Okay.
All right.
All right, guys. Welcome back for another episode of the Tell No Lies podcast. We are on the milestone today. This is episode 10.
10.
10.
Yes.
I am your host, Devin Physique, and we are here alongside the lovely co-host, Dr. Ashley Contorno.
That's me.
So I know we're excited for, well, I'm excited to ask you questions, but I know you're excited about this one because this is right up your alley. So what are we talking about today?
We're talking about dating apps,
Dating
bro.
apps, all of them.
All of them.
I mean, because you even taught me some dating apps I didn't know existed.
I'm on a lot.
You are.
I'm on a
Now,
lot.
little back context on this. How often were you on dating apps? I'm assuming before Steven, you probably weren't on them very much.
I tried it once, but this was before Tinder and Bumble and all of that ever existed. I was on an app called Plenty of Fish.
Oh, you know what's funny? I have a funny story for that. So when I was on Shreds, I used to get hit up all the time by girls in my messages saying that they were talking to me on that app.
Oh, really?
But actually, it wasn't an app. Wasn't it a website?
No, it was a website.
Yeah, and they were like, "Oh yeah, someone's pretending to be you on Plenty of Fish." So that's funny that you brought that up because that was like the first little like dating app was Plenty of Fish.
Yeah, and
totally
I went on
remember
a date or two from it, but it just like creeped me out. And I was in grad school or undergrad. I don't know. I was too busy to even worry about it.
So that one was strictly on a website. You'd have to log in. The only
From
time
your
you
computer.
can was it kind of similar to the dating app now as far as the matching and stuff goes?
I honestly don't. It was so long ago.
Yeah.
It was like 12,
And I've never been on
14
it, so I
years
don't
ago.
even know what it looks like.
Yeah. I started dating. So most of y'all know I'm a widow. My husband went and died on me, that piece of shit. And it took me about a year to get ready to date. But what I want to say first, why I'm so excited to talk today, I had the best sex of my life from Tinder.
Tinder. And that one is like, I don't know, for some reason, like I don't have a lot of experience on dating apps, but I feel like Tinder is like the most ghetto.
It's like the hookup app, right? But like I was in the Grand Tetons and this guy so happened to be on the same trail as me. And I was actually going to go, I was RVing. I had never like gone on the apps when I was RVing because I was like hitting the road, whatever. And I just so happened to have it on and I was going to turn it off because I was leaving that place. And I turned it off. I see this handsome cowboy and I was like, okay. And it was a match. And we were on the same trail and I was messaging him and he was like on his horse. So I just went from 10 miles feeling exhausted to feeling exhilarated. And like every corner I turned, I'm like trying to look for this man on a horse. And we didn't end up finding each other. But then he called me after because I gave him my number and we met up in the parking lot. And he was, I don't know which one was the fucking stud, like this man or this horse, like beautiful. Couldn't contain myself.
Okay, so he was just riding majestically through the
wilderness.
Through the wilderness on his horse.
Yeah.
When you went back to the parking lot, did he have like a car that had like a hitch for the horse to go in and shit?
Yeah, he had 2 horses and a trailer. He was from North Dakota, and he was just there just randomly for a little weekend getaway. And then we ended up I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go freshen up. We went out to dinner at this pizza place. He was there waiting for me. He made the reservations, like whatever. We had pizza. We talked. And like, I knew I wanted to fuck this man. Like, let's be real. And we went out to my truck and we made out. And he was just like, he said something about privacy. And I was like, well, I have 142 square feet of privacy back at the campsite, AKA my trailer. So we went back to my RV and it was the best sex of my life. And then, so I have really strong boundaries when it comes to dating, like online with what I accept, what I don't accept, because there's just so many people out there. But like this man, like I get it now why women like stay or like stay in toxic relationships or don't. Like I was willing to like, I could move to South Dakota, North Dakota, be a Bible thumping, gun toting stepmom of 3 to this man who loves church and Jesus and everything that I am not about. It was that good.
Was it the sex that was good or just
Yeah.
everything in general?
Everything. The first thing he did was make me squirt like 10 times.
Wow. He was just that. I think the whole fantasy with the horse and, I mean, that would have been even more majestic. Like, imagine if he like saw you in the wilderness and he was on his horse and he just rode by you and just like grabbed you and threw you like, like the movies where they throw you up over on the horse. Like, Jesus, you might have squirted on the fucking horse.
Probably would have.
Jesus.
Probably would have.
You guys didn't try and fuck on the horse?
No.
I wonder if people have ever fucked on a horse.
I'm sure.
You think so?
I'm sure.
Like just riding like doggy or not doggy missionary or something like this or
just riding with the waves.
Someone has to have tried it. A real cowboy has had to have tried that.
Hit us up if you fucked on a horse.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I want to know.
Not fucked a horse, fucked on a horse.
Well, you'd probably be dead.
Yeah.
If I horse fucked you, you'd probably be dead.
There's porn out there
There
like
is,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't
We
either.
don't want to go down that road. Anyways, we're talking about dating apps. So you have limited experience,
Very limited.
but you had your longest relationship from a dating app.
Yeah, my ex-fiance was from Bumble. That was probably my only successful interaction, to be honest with you.
Really?
Because it's been quite some time since I've even been on it where there was any type of longevity to it. I don't know what I think a lot of it contributes to, like what I told you about the Plenty of Fish. Like people were already catfishing me then, so I feel like when I got on it in that time period, even with my ex, like people just always think it's fake.
You are fake.
Correct.
Yeah, I could see
So
that.
like to me, it's just like pointless. I've always reverted to social media as my like outlet as far as like finding somebody.
I never have success with that.
And isn't that kind of weird? Like, your success is, I mean, we have these conversations where it's like you're lining them up. Like you got different ones or having different dates and all this other stuff. And I'm like, my experience was never like that. And I think that's why it was just so quick.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this is pointless. I'd rather go on Instagram. They get to see my profile, know I'm authentic. They don't even have to question me at all. And I think, when you on those dating apps too, I feel like over time you might be jaded in how your conversations go with people. What are people looking for on there? Like we said about the Tinder, like back when I was on there years ago, it was like, it was strictly just to fuck. Like I don't think there was anyone having any meaningful conversations on there.
It was rare. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me all the apps that you have explored on
Okay, I'm on 4 right now.
currently.
I don't pay for them all, but I am on 4. I do pay for some of them. Hinge,
Okay.
Bumble,
Okay.
Tinder,
Uh-huh.
and Field.
And that's the kink app.
That's what we call the kink app.
That's the kink app.
So Hinge I hate the most
Okay.
because, and I would say a lot of this is geographically. I don't like Hinge here because it doesn't show you where they're from and where they're at in the same way that other apps do. You like can put your hometown and you can change it. Like, I don't know. My biggest thing is we live in a transient town in Las Vegas and like no one is from here. It's the hardest part of dating in Las Vegas is everybody's here for the weekend and it's cool for you, for me to be your one night stand, but that's not cool for me to have a revolving door of one night stands. Like the amount of people that I like of dating that I have to do to actually get a successful date is a lot. And I'm not willing to like try to work into someone's plans while they're here for their bachelor party and like they're drunk for the whole weekend. Like that does not sound like my idea of a good time. So that's why I don't really like Hinge and I don't feel like a lot of guys are on there. Bumble, I like a lot. That's probably my favorite app here. I just feel like people are more real. There's not as many fake profiles. And I just feel like not that I'm looking for romantic dating. I'm not against it. So the pool of daters is better. Tinder, I keep going on and off of the app.
Well, you just showed me it recently, and they've obviously updated it in a positive way because I remember before it was just so basic. The one when I last was on it, when you showed me, I was like, "That's Tinder." I was like, "Oh shit!" Like they've definitely stepped their game up as far as like what they show and the pictures and the quality of the app and all that other stuff. So maybe it's evolved since the last time that I was on it.
I feel like it's definitely still like a hookup culture app, but not like it used to be exclusively pretty much for that. I would say though that has the highest amount of fake profiles compared to the others. And then Field is Feeld. It is more of like it's based in like the kink world where it's for people who a lot of times are polyamorous, non-monogamous, couples looking for others and or people who have kinks. And it's like, instead of like, oh, what are your interests? The gym, hiking. It's like getting face fucked, BDSM, being dominant. So it's like
More direct.
very kink forward.
Now, would you say on that one that they're not really looking for a relationship then?
I would say more so leaning towards hookup culture or just experiencing in the kink world, which isn't necessarily hookup culture, just if that makes sense. It's a little bit different. I like that one and Bumble the most, but Field probably has the least amount of people out of all of those apps that I've explained. So I'll cycle through it in like a night. Like in 10 minutes, just like click through who is on there and who's not. That one's really cheap. It's like $30 for 6 months or something like that. I pay for Bumble. I paid for Tinder at some point and I still have the subscription, but I'm not going to pay for it again. And I don't pay for Hinge. But I think of dating apps like a job, kind of like.
Well, before you do that, what is your current objective with these apps right now? Because I think that's important to tell the viewer like what your goal is, right? Because a lot of people, their goal is to find somebody, or their goal is to do the hookup aspect of things. So like with where you currently stand, so when you're telling all this stuff, they have context with it. Where would you place yourself in all that, even if potentially leading into something? But what is your overall goal being on all these different apps?
It depends. So I am not what I would say dating for or with intention. Like I am dating for physical connections, not necessarily for one night stands, but I would like to find somebody that's local to have a connection with where I could have an ongoing friends with benefits situation and or maybe some casual dates. I'm not looking for a boyfriend. I'm not looking for a relationship. Even the thought of like sending someone a good morning and good night text every day like freaks me the fuck out. But if I met someone and we had enough chemistry and there was enough of those things that aligned and I felt some type of way about that person where I was genuinely wanting more interest, I'm not closed off to it. But that's not my primary search intent, is looking for a relationship or a partner. I'm looking for something much more casual than that primarily.
Now as far as that goes, if you found one person that dynamic worked where it wasn't leading to anything, you had great time with them, would it just be one or would you stack multiple?
If I was fulfilled enough, it would just be one. Because right now I do have one in rotation and it's unfortunately not fulfilling enough.
So he's in rotation for a reason.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're an anomaly to that because I feel like most girls that get on those apps, they're looking for a relationship. I mean, they're emphasizing not hookup culture and all these other things. So that's why when we have these discussions, I always say, like, you're like the prized possession for a man that's on there that wants exactly those things, because you're looking for exactly what probably 90% of men on these apps are looking for, which is the hookup culture.
I would say yes. And a lot of women say that they're cool with this, but they're really not. But I have this like emotional wall and barrier where I'm just really not ready to lead with my heart yet. And that does pose precarious situations because a lot of men do end up falling for me. I'm so easy to fall for, you know what I'm saying? Like,
or like the same thing, like when it's reversed, like the idea that you're not looking for that, they want to be that one.
yeah. Yeah. And change flip my script. Or just most people in general want to ride the relationship escalator. And for me, because I had the love of my life, I had my soulmate, like that bar is really high. I'm not comparing every man that I get with to Steven, but I know what it feels like to genuinely have a real connection with someone. And something I'm not willing to do as a woman at 36 years old is have a placeholder. I feel like so many women just will settle for anything and anyone that gives them a little bit of attention and have a placeholder while they're still looking for something better. And I know my value and my worth where I am okay by myself, and I will wait until someone who has enough worth to match my energy comes along.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's like a job, Devin. It's like a job.
Tell us about it.
So this is how I date online.
Yeah, tell us the criteria.
So like, let's say like you were, I do spend a lot of time on the apps because I think about it. If you were to go on a date, right? Like let's say you had a date tonight and it was at 5:00. You get ready starting at 3:30. You meet whatever, 5:00. You have a date. It's like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. You're home, we'll say by 9 or 10. If the date starts and ends with the date, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's, we'll say 7 hours for one date. So I kind of think of it that way where like I'm going to put in that kind of energy into finding a qualified person that I want to go on a date with. I actually think dating apps are incredible because you get served a menu of people that you can filter all your different preferences, height, ethnicity, marital status, kids, whatever, and just look at all of them. So in those 7 hours that you went out with one person, I can look at 700 people and find people that I think are a better match for me than, doing that. So it's like, for me, it's a numbers game because the type of man I'm attracted to is really, really rare. Like I would say it's probably 1 in 100 that I even have enough just visual attraction to even want to learn more. And then I read your profile. If you don't have anything on your profile, I don't swipe you because I'm like, can you even put an intelligent sentence together? That usually means that they're fake or they're there just to hook up or visiting or they're cheating. Like having a bio to me, I feel like is important. So that's kind of like.
So you take those steps and look at all that.
Mm-hmm. If they don't have any pictures of them, or if every single picture they have is them holding a drink. I'm like, our lifestyles won't align because you drink a lot and I don't ever drink.
Mhm.
So I'm observant in a lot of the things I look at. If they don't put their height, I usually assume that they're insecure about it. So I'm like, own it. If you're short, king, own it.
So you're out.
Yeah. If they, what else? So if they don't put where they're from, sometimes I'm like, okay with that. But here, that's usually my first question. If we do match and someone doesn't have where they're from on their profile, I just am like, are you window shopping? Are you visiting? Are you from here? You know what I mean? To really get a feel, because like I said, it would be really rare for me to accept a date with someone who doesn't live here. If there's a viability for future connections, like maybe they split their time between here and somewhere else, but otherwise it's a no for me, dog. What else? Hold on.
It's a no for me, dog.
The no for me. Who says that? Randy Jackson?
I don't know. Oh, you know what he does? Yeah, from American Idol.
Mm-hmm. If there's only one picture, it's usually a no for me, dog.
Well, when you think of these apps, right? Like you're solely basing it off of a physical attraction, really, right? Because even if someone wrote something, I mean, it's still very like, there's not a lot of emotion that gets thrown into how someone can potentially write their bio, and maybe someone doesn't really know how to write it the right way, or they're very basic about that. So like, are there tiers in which you go, okay, it's enough here, I'm going to look past that, and maybe the physical attraction aligns? Because I think the few times that I was on it, that's what I was solely basing my first, like, am I going to match with this person? It was based off of an attraction physically to their look.
For sure. That is my first line of defense. It's like, when I'm on it, it's like, do I want your dick in me? Do I want your dick in me? Do I want your dick in me? Do I want your dick in me?
So that's the first thing. Like,
yeah.
So we don't even look at the bio unless that's approved.
Right. If yes.
Yeah.
That's I want your dick in me, then I will go down.
The appearance is the first. I mean, that's what you're basing the whole match on, right?
Right.
I mean, if they had everything else, so like, if everything in the information about them was what you wanted, but the attraction wasn't there, they're out, right?
If I'm like on the fence about somebody and I read their bio and it's interesting and they have a lot to say that sparks my interest, I will say yes. Because also I feel like not everybody takes great photos, you know, and like you could like someone, they could become more attractive to you physically based on their personality. So I've had those scenarios where I'm like, I don't know. And then I read their bio and I was like, yes, like this person is on my wavelength of, as far as intelligence or humor or whatever that I might be seeing that's attractive to me. On the kink app, a lot of times I'm not as attracted to the guys that are on there, but the shit they put in their bio gets me in.
But do you feel like because it's the kink app and it's more derived around maybe just a sexual interaction, you look at it a little different?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like there's experiences that I want to have personally, physically, and depending on what is in your bio, if those meet my preferences, I will be more willing to relax my preferences for physical appearance to match with someone who has like those things that I want to try. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that would be why you'd go on the kink app,
right?
Specifically for that. So you have two different mindsets between the kink app and then the regular ones, as far as like the Bumble and the Tinder and all that.
But I would say my mindset is always, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no. Like if I'm sitting on someone's profile for like a while and it's just like, Ashley, that means it's no. Like stop. Like there's a million dicks out there. There's literally a million dicks. More than a million. There's millions of dicks out there. You do not need to be like wasting your time, or the moment you're chatting with someone and they start to give you the ick, bye. There's a million dicks. You do not need, like, when I first started online dating, I was so naive and I was just spending so much time wasting my time with all of these men on these apps. Because you got to think on the other side, like I've been catfished so many times, like even many things that I do, which I'm going to get into my full protocol of my screening process. So I've still been succumbed to being catfish.
Now, when you say catfish, like you actually met them and they were nothing like they said they were, or
no.
it never led to anything and they were just bullshitting the whole time?
Both of those scenarios. Well, kind of both of those scenarios. I've gone out on a date with someone who's definitely used way older pictures than what they were presenting themselves as. And that was before I did my little validation process. I had someone who had a verified profile who was not the person who was behind their profile. So I don't know how they got it verified. I'm sure there's AI. I'm sure you can hold another phone screen and make it work to do it. And then I had someone catfish me really hard who was in a different state, set up a date with me. And I'm like on my way to go to this date. And he's like claiming that he's gotten off late from work and he's not going to make it and this, that, and the other. And he was in Montana.
See, that's the part with these apps too that doesn't make sense. Like, how far can you go with this with the lie? Like, what's the point of that?
Oh,
I
he
mean,
just got-
what's the point of even lying in any instance? Like, as soon as you meet that person, you're gonna know that everything that they said was a lie if that's the case.
So that one was the one that I was just mentioning about the Montana guy. That happened like really early on in my online dating. Like I had like 2 really great interactions and I was like, oh, online dating is beautiful. They were both ethically non-monogamous people who had partners and it was wonderful for me, like just starting to date again. And then my third instance was that guy that was in Montana. So he was married, his wife and child were in California. He was stationed in Montana. And after we were set to go out on this date that never happened, I ended up just asking my girlfriends to come out with me because my confidence was pretty shaken. It fucked me up because I literally had only been online dating for like 3 months. I was barely just a year as a widow, and it just really hurt me a lot to get stood up in that way, manipulated in that way, because we exchanged a lot in the 5 or so days we were talking leading up to the date, like nudes, sexting, all of that stuff. And then when we went on the date, one of my girlfriends that was there, she's like, oh my God, I dated him. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I dated him. Don't you remember me talking about blah, 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 blah? And she said some scenarios. And I was like, oh my God. So he knew who I was. He pretended that he didn't. He was in the powerlifting world. And it's a pretty small world. And at the time, I was a very elite powerlifter. Like, it was weird that he didn't know who I was or never heard of my gym when he dated my husband's training partner. Her name is Betty. And so he knew who I was. He even had told her, like, talk shit about me to her. Like he said that he thought I was annoying or something at the time that they were dating. But mind you, he pretended he had no idea who I was. I did some additional investigating, found his wife, talked to his wife on the phone, like heard all these stories about how he had done this over and over and over again. So basically I went and made a little goob video and I synthesized all of the information about him and like put it in chronological order to show how shady this guy was, how he matched with me, set up this date, never showed up, was in another state, is married, blah, blah, blah. 13 women came forward.
Where'd you put it?
Online, on Instagram. It got like 100 and some thousand views, and 13 women came forward, either had gone on dates with this man, had relationships with this man, or fucked this man.
Now, what was the final solution with the wife?
They split up. And I'm so happy because she'd never had like enough concrete evidence. And then every time some woman was in my DMs saying, oh yeah, I fucked him. Oh yeah, here, look at this video of us training together. Oh yeah, blah, blah. I was just forwarding it to her. I feel like that interaction happened for her, not for me, which sucked because I was a pawn in the piece. But I feel like that piece needed to come together for her life, for her to heal and get away from this man finally, because she was going to move to Montana to be with him that fall. And they are no longer together now. And I'm so happy. And we still connect and chat. And I'm not saying like it was all me, but I had the information I found out had a large part to do with her being able to be free. But that scenario taught me a lot. And then I started my little screening protocol of how.
So you kind of went into it very naive.
Yeah.
Because you talked about like nudes and all that other stuff, and you don't do that now. So
No.
when you said that, I was like, oh, okay. So there was something that you learned from in that instance, which he was probably doing like what most dudes would do that are never going to meet you, is like get all the pictures from you, get off on that aspect, and then never actually meet you, and then just keep recycling that same mindset with every single person he interacts with.
Yeah. And he even went one layer deeper. He used to manipulate his wife and like make fake profiles and try to get at her to see if she would take the bait.
To like cheat.
Yeah. One time he pretended to be Steven. He pretended to be my husband, getting at her, offering her like free membership or free day passes at my fucking gym. And he said he didn't know who I was and didn't know who the gym. So like
he was just a con artist.
Yeah. So that he was.
Now, was he messaging her on Instagram or something?
Yeah.
With fake profiles?
Yeah.
Just to see like maybe his guilty conscience was getting the best of him, and he's like, let's see if she's doing it too, or like I can catch her, so it makes him feel validated for what he was doing.
Yeah, for years.
That's wild. It's kind of sick.
It's so sick. He's sick in the fucking head, and so that broke me. I stopped online dating for like 4 or 5 months after that because I was like, this is way too much. I'm too emotionally fragile to handle this. And then when I started again, so that interaction taught me that I need to verify who you are via social media, because his account was private and he had like little Easter egg hints about the fact that he had a wife, but I didn't put the connections together. And then obviously if I would have been able to see his page, I would have seen it. So now when I match with someone, if their profile is not verified, I ask them to verify their profile right away. And if they're fake, they'll just unmatch me because they're never going to be
Now,
able
when
to.
you say verify, what do you?
Like on the dating apps, you can verify your profile where it's like it like scans your face.
Okay.
On Bumble, you can do 2-step verification where you scan your ID along with your face, and it'll show that you're 2-step verified to show that you are who you're saying you
So
are.
you're saying if you match with someone that wasn't verified, you would ask them for verification, but how would you ask for them if that's something that the app needs?
No, I would ask you like, hey, Devin, can you verify your profile on Bumble for me?
Oh, like actually go do it.
Yeah, in order for us to keep talking. And then if they're real, they'll do it. And if they're not, whoop, they just disappear.
Like if someone didn't have it, maybe they didn't know how or something.
Yeah, or
Oh,
just some people just don't do it.
gotcha.
It's not a big ask. And then I ask for their social media. Not like right away. I usually chat with them for a couple minutes. And then I ask for their social media. If they don't have social media, sometimes they're lying about that. Or
like I feel like who doesn't have one?
yeah, I've had several guys say I don't have it right now, and then I do my next step, which is, this sounds like I'm so crazy, but ladies, you got to protect yourself. I like to protect my time and energy.
Yeah, of course.
So by doing all of this now, it makes me look crazy, but at least I'm not wasting my time engaging with someone or sending them, vulnerable pictures of me, and it's not even the person who I think it is. So I screenshot all of their photos from their profile and I look them up in Google reverse image search. And any publicly available profile, domain, wherever that picture is seated, it will show. Now, if your Instagram is private, they won't connect and show. But I've had guys say, "Oh, I'm not on Instagram," and then I'm like, and then I send them their profile. Yes, you are. Why are you lying? And then that's the end of it because they have something to hide. But most of the time, it's not a big ask if you have nothing to
No,
hide.
I don't think I don't even think that's weird of you to do that. That's smart. I don't think most people even know you can do that.
Yeah.
Because if you're on there with a specific intention, even if it's the way that you're talked about what your intentions are, you still have specific intentions. So don't waste mine.
Right.
And if it's to do what that guy did and all these other things, I would 100% say that makes valid sense. I would think most girls just didn't even know they could do those steps.
Yeah. So you can do it. Download the Google app. Any screenshot you can do it. Like, say someone's wearing a dress and you like their dress, take a picture of the dress and upload it into Google Photos, and it'll show you where you can buy it from. It's an amazing tool. The next layer I do is if I get somebody's number, I pay for a service. It's $30. It's $10 a month, $30 every 3 months. It's called Spokio. It's a reverse number lookup. So I'll punch in their number and I would say it's about 70% accurate. In finding the details from their number. A lot of times it shows their address, which I think is a little crazy, but I just want to make sure that their name matches their number. And then from there, I will look up their name in Instagram or just on the web and see if I could find like any information about them. Because I have found multiple times like, oh, you're fucking married. You're a piece of shit. Like from that next step, or oh, this number's registered to this person. This isn't even you. And it's just another.
Now, when you see that stuff, do you call them out on it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you do.
Yeah.
You go to that next level of like letting them know that know.
In the beginning, I would just unmatch them, but now it's like sport for me, where I have enough confidence with dating apps, and my emotional state isn't as fragile as it used to be, where I'd be like, "You're a little piece of shit. Like, why are you lying to me?"
And then they just unfollow you or unmatch you.
Yeah. And then so now the nudes and pictures thing that didn't come until about, when did I move here? February, March. This came in March. So the guy that was verified in his profile, we had been chatting, everything like checked out so far from where I stood. And I had sent him one like nudie video, and I was like really hesitant to do it because I really don't like sending people videos. It's just like, I don't know.
What made you want to do it then?
Just like our conversation got real hot and heavy, and he was like asking me for something specific, and I thought it was hot. And then later on that afternoon, he asked me if I had any single friends, because he had a single friend, and he sent me a bunch of pictures of him, and I shopped him to one of my single friends and connected them. And I was like excited, and then we were all talking about doing a double date. And I just started to get this weird feeling in my gut, and I was like, hey, what is the number that dude's texting you from? Same number. It was the same guy texting her and me, and he was pretending to be both dudes. I
That is
know.
insane.
So then I called him out on it, and then he blocked me right away. And then I've actually seen him on the apps like 1 or 2 more times.
So he didn't even like try to have a fake number. He
No.
literally was texting from the same fucking number.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's not the same guy, because who he was pretending to be on Instagram is like kind of like a public figure. He's a porn star. And so it was a public profile, and it didn't, I should have messaged him on Instagram. But anyways, what that scenario taught me is, before I don't send nudes unless I've met you in person or we've been talking for a week, like, period. And you have also sent me a video like saying, "Hi,
I was gonna say,
Ashley."
yeah, couldn't you do like a voice note or a video
I
of
make
you
them
just
send me a video.
yeah, a full on video of you just saying hi Ashley or your name or something, because that'll weed someone out real quick.
Yeah. So I'll like, if I'm unsure about like the status of whether you are really real or not, I'll just say, "Hey, can you send me a little video just saying hi, Ashley?" And boom, they unfollow me or unmatch me immediately if they're fake, or if it's real, it's like, this isn't, and I explain, like, I've had some really negative situations and I don't like to waste my time, and I just want to verify you are who you're saying you are, because I've been in scenarios
Yeah,
where
and
you're not.
that's a simple ask.
So that is all of my layers of protection. And then once you make it past all that.
Okay, so are you doing this? Is this protocol like within the conversation in the very beginning?
Yeah.
Like, or are you having some sort of small convo that leads into these?
I would say I don't talk to someone for more than like 20 minutes before I start the process, because I just don't like to waste my time. And I also don't want to I'm like a glass half full, like, romantic at the end of the day. Like, I believe in the best in people, right? So it's easy for me to kind of be bamboozled, even though I have all of this history and experience. So I really try, before I get emotionally invested in anyone.
That you hit all those checklists.
Yeah. And before I get excited, you know what I mean? Especially if someone's like hitting all those little buttons, talking dirty to me just the right way, I want to keep progressing this conversation, but only if you're really you.
Yeah.
And I even had somebody like try to catfish me on my OnlyFans. And he ended up telling me who he was, but I'm like, I'm too good at this not to find out who you are.
Yeah, I feel like that happens obviously more with girls
Yeah.
than it does a girl doing it to a guy, because I don't feel like, the few instances when I was on there, I've never felt that was a scenario at all for me.
It hasn't happened as much out here in Vegas, to be honest, as it was in Los Angeles for some reason. And I feel like as of late, I haven't had as many encounters where I'm just like knocking people off for those reasons. But it's a nice protocol that makes me feel safer, that I'm not investing into someone who is going to turn out to hurt my feelings or just steal my pictures or do whatever the fuck they're going to do with what.
Now, before all this protocol, we have the weight.
Yes.
So that's before all of it, right?
My standards, yeah. The body weight standards. I actually made a chart now that has height built in. So my minimum standard to ride this ride is 200 motherfucking pounds. That is, anything under is victim weight. Like, I'm sorry. There's many girls that will love you at 195. Not me. Sorry, it is not happening. And that came from real life experience as well. I went on a date with a man that was probably my size. And
What about height?
both. No, he was smaller than me. He was probably my size height-wise, maybe an inch or two taller. But Steven was 5'10", 300 some pounds.
Yeah.
Like, that archetype wasn't always what I had dated in the past. Like, my ex-husband was 6'2", probably 200 pounds, but he was, really tall. So I didn't know like what I'm attracted to and what I'm not attracted to, because I'd only been with Steven for 7 years. And so this guy, he didn't look as small as he looked in his profile pictures as he did in person. So we're kissing and I'm just like trying to feel something that felt manly. And nothing. I was like, delts? No. Biceps?
Squeezing with your fingers.
Yeah, no. I would have had more luck with a woman. Like, it just, and I was like, I'm sorry, this isn't doing it for me. And that's when I knew 200 pounds minimum. Like, you need to be.
So obviously all of these things that you've built, this criteria list, all these other things, they're predicated based off the experiences that you had when you just went into it very free and open-minded, that you're going to just meet someone, and if you vibe with them, you vibe with them, but now you're seeing all these other scenarios. And I think that's also another thing that would be different for a male and a female too, right? Is like, a female going into it with a man that is smaller than them or that is skinny or all these other things. If you're not attracted to that, that's going to be a weird case scenario. If it's the other way around, I feel like most dudes are just naturally bigger than most women. So
Yeah.
obviously you don't deal with that. But so obviously all these things were based off of experiences. So you've kind of bulletproofed this list based off of, oh, okay, I had this encounter with this skinny dude who I was touching, trying to feel something manly. And then I realized, all right, maybe we should just be friends and just talk the rest of the night or something.
Yeah.
Instead of it leading to anything more. So that experience was like, okay, 200 pounds. Now now what's the height? What's the height
So
limit?
just recently I made a little chart because I'm like, if you're 6'5", it's easy to be 200 pounds.
It is.
So we could post the chart or put the chart. It's like for starting at 5'8" is 200 pounds, and then every inch is 12 pounds. Once you get to 6'2", it's only 7 pounds.
Now, how'd you base this little thing?
I just kind of was
okay,
like,
so what if somebody was 6 feet and they were 200 pounds? You would say no.
probably not. Yeah.
So the 200 threshold is just for the 5'8" then.
I mean, I would have to see how they looked. But it's also like not 200 pounds of like sloppy weight because 200 pounds of muscle and 200 pounds of fat look very different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like I'm trying to be super judgy, but it's what turns my vagina on. Like my vagina is not attracted to a small man.
At that same, I think it would only be a problem if you were like those girls where you're like, I can't find a man. There's so many girls that are like, oh, they're very specific. I want a 6 this, and he has to be this much. He has to make this much money. He has to do this. Like, and then they're also on top of that complaining not finding one. Like, you're perfectly content if you never found anyone. You're not complaining about that. So what this checklist is going down is what you're looking for. So if it doesn't hit that, you're not going, oh man, I can never find a man. You're okay with the fact that you're alone, if that's what it ends up leading to.
Yeah. And it's like I'm looking for a physical interaction primarily. So I need to be physically attracted to you.
Yeah.
Because that is the intent here. And I'm not attracted to small men, like, period. And I need you to have, like, especially too, like, legs. Like, if you're looking all swole and then I look down and I'm like, no, where did they go? You skip leg day. I'm sorry. So that's, again, back to why I like the apps as a tool, because I can look at hundreds of people in a short amount of time. And, if in, 2 days of swiping, maybe I spend, and actually I have a timer where it's 45 minutes total across all of my 4 apps. And I don't extend my limit because I don't want to be swiping for more than that. I feel like it's a little toxic to my brain. So 45 minutes a day, 2 days, I might find 1 or 2 guys to chat with, and they sometimes don't even last 24 hours, even at that. But it's at least getting me somewhere rather than just going on dates with guys and trying to have these experiences. But it did take me a little over a year to gain all of this anecdotal knowledge to know where I'm at and how comfortable I feel dating now, because now I feel very comfortable on the apps and dating and putting myself out there and cutting guys off. And a lot of times I'm a little too nice. You and I have gone back and forth about this. Like, I always like to be the bigger person. When I'm ending an interaction with someone, I will tell them how I feel and why. And sometimes like it hurts men's egos and I'm just generally nice about it. Like, hey, I just want to let you know that, my feelings have changed on the situation a little bit and I'm going to step back from this connection. I don't really feel like it's a romantic connection for me. I wish you the best. And then a dude will just be like, you're a fucking ugly bitch anyways.
But see, I would appreciate that, honestly, because on the contrary to that, there's also a lot of people where they just ghost you, and you could have a conversation with them for a couple of days and then all of a sudden they're just nowhere to be found. So I know we did have this discussion because you had one of those instances where you told somebody, like, after they sent a picture to you about like how they actually looked, you were just completely turned off, and you I don't think you referenced directly towards them about the picture, but you just insinuated that you were no longer interested, and then he said some like mean things back to you, and that's where you have to go, okay, conversation ends. I said my piece. Don't let that get that little, oh, he dug underneath. Now I got to say something back, because that is the repercussions of being honest. Is, I mean, just in life, right? Like, if you are honest and you're transparent, there's going to be people that not are offended. They're offended because you have a boundary and they're no longer a part of it because of that boundary you set. So they feel some type of way, like you said, ego thing, whatever, that they feel inclined that they're going to say something mean back to you. And you have to be strong enough as an individual to go, I'm in control of the response. I'm not going to allow it to affect me. I said my piece. I gave them that extra acknowledgement of why this isn't going to work, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, it's hard to keep my tongue. And a lot of men, it does hurt their egos. And I feel like if I got a message like that, I would actually appreciate it more too and just say, like, thank you for being an adult, basically. But a lot of guys I had one guy actually this week that I just ghosted. I usually don't ghost. I don't like ghosting because I don't like getting ghosted, but I just blocked him. And you want to know why, guys? This man who I went on a date with did not want to go on a second date with me because I wear shoes in my own house.
And put more context to that,
Okay.
because obviously you put it on your close friends. So there's some select few people that get to see all your dating.
I put all my dating
all
tea
da-
on my close friends
on your
story.
close friends. So, there's a walk of it. So we never got to fully getting to know that was exactly what his reasoning was, but all of the signs led to how he posted and did all those indirect things that's what he was insinuating. So elaborate on that.
We went on a date and we started and ended at his house. And when I got to his house and he was going to show me around and I was walking in, I asked, first thing I did in the doorway, shoes on or shoes off? He said, I'm a shoes off household. I'm Mexican. That's the way I was raised. And I said, okay, cool. As I'm taking my shoes off, I'm like, I'm a shoes on household, but I know everybody has their differences. And then we proceeded to have the date. Everything was fine. End of the date, we were making out hot and heavy. Like, I think he might have came in his pants. I don't know. And then I go to leave and I needed to sit to put my shoes on because they weren't ones I could easily slide on. So I walked into his house a little bit, like just it was like right in the doorway. There was a seat and I was like, I'm going to sit to put my shoes on. And then I said goodbye. Later, he texted me when I got home, like, I really enjoyed you, blah, blah, blah. I really want to see you again. Let's set up another date. Sure thing, blah, blah, blah. Next morning, we had been friends on social media as of the day before because of my protocol. And you know how the algorithm like always pushes someone you just became friends with?
You see all their shit.
Everything. He is not active on social media at all. His last post was like from a year ago. And he had a story. So I clicked on it and it was a note that he had typed in his iPhone, screenshotted and uploaded as a story. It said, the only time I'm not a judgmental person, but the only time I will ever judge you is if you wear shoes in your house, ... And I replied, is this judgmental towards me? And he left me on red for like 4 hours and never texted me, nothing. And I was like, do I want to text this motherfucker and be like, I don't know what your problem is. I don't know why you're so offended that I wear shoes in my own home. But I clearly respected your boundary with not wearing shoes in your home.
Well, I mean, even the fact that you came into the house and said what you said, it wasn't like you walked in and bombarded with your shoes in.
So
like, even if you
weird.
took a couple steps, I mean, that's still weird to me. Like, the fact that you acknowledged, I know everyone's not that way. So was he offended that you walked into his house with the shoes on, or was he offended that you do that in your house and he doesn't like that?
It's the latter. Because I didn't walk in his house with my shoes on.
So it's just the fact that that is such a...
I think I'm just so perfect, and maybe he was afraid that he had to find something wrong with me. And it said I wear shoes in my own house.
That is really, yeah. And the fact that it wasn't like he found a meme. He wrote it in his notes.
He made it a point.
And then like that's how you know he doesn't use Instagram, because who writes in their notes and makes that a story
and screenshots
and
it
then puts it on their story? Like, he wrote that. I remember when you sent it to me and we were going back and forth. I was like, no, that's pretty intentional. And whether he was insinuating that you were making a gesture about how you do it in your house and he obviously doesn't. However he's viewed it, it was the principle of the fact that he didn't like that you wear your shoes in the house.
And why still have this whole date with me, and then
say that after?
Yeah, or
well, I mean, I guess I would have went with the date, okay, hooked up with you, whatever, and then that would have been the end of it. I wouldn't have said like, let's do another date, another this, another that, and then on top of that, why go on your story like a little bitch and write that? But I already told you from the beginning, he's like posing all gay and shit. I was like, this guy's a faggot. Like, I literally said that to you, like the way he posed. And you're like, well, you were like justifying it for him. And sure enough, so part of your screening, because we had this conversation in a voice note the other day, you need to start giving them to me for an extra screen.
I don't know. You're going to say no to everybody. You're going to find something wrong with everybody.
No.
Then I'll never get laid, Devin.
No. Shut the fuck. I'm always like clapping for you. I'm like, oh, you found someone? You were excited about that one too.
Well,
like,
I have one this weekend. I'm excited about.
But yeah, you've been excited about a lot of them, like what about the other one? You have to tell that story because you put it on your close friends, the guy that you met at the UPS place.
So yeah, this ties into something else. So this is like about more exploratory with figuring out boundaries with different relationship styles, because I love the ethical non-monogamy umbrella right now at this point in my life. I don't know if I had a primary partner, if that is the relationship style I would want to explore. But right now, I love being like the other person because they're not going to try to progress the relationship.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't have to worry about them potentially catching feelings for you because you're the only one.
Or they're dating multiple people, so it's not like all of the pressure is on me to be this primary partner that I don't know what I'm ready for. You know, the last thing I would ever want to do is commit to someone emotionally and say, okay, I'm ready for this, and then me be the red flag because I'm not ready for this.
Like you change your mind.
Yeah, so that's why I'm just being really gentle with myself about emotionally dating versus physically dating. So
I've definitely been living vicariously through all your stories because you've had quite some stories.
I'm having a good time.
You are, you
I
know,
am.
but you have this high, you ride this high, and then they all fucking let you down.
I am a perpetual optimist.
Yeah.
And that's why I do all my screenings so that I don't get my feelings hurt. But I still go into what I love about myself. I think that resiliency is how quickly you can return yourself back to baseline. And I feel like I'm a resilient person because even though I get my hopes up and then I get my hopes crushed,
You burn and turn.
I still come back to that excited little girl who wants to just see the best in people and all the situations that I'm put in.
And I think that's important too, right? Because people can get like almost debilitated by the idea that like they keep failing, but you have these protocols for things. And even though your stories are crazy, I feel like they're all reflective of that person. And I think that's a big thing too, right? When you've grown and you've, gone through the things that you need to heal from, at the end of the day, it didn't work, not because of you, but because of them, right? And I think when there's scenarios where things don't work, a lot of people put the pressure on them, like, oh, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? And like all your weird scenarios, I would look back and say it was all them.
Yeah.
So I think you're comfortable knowing that, and it doesn't make you feel less than when it doesn't work out. You just, like I said, you burn and turn. Like, he did this, okay, cool, I'm on to the next. Even though, yes, I mean, you interact and maybe the energy can, where you're like, oh man, I was hopeful for it, but it doesn't last longer than maybe a couple days, and then you're on to the next.
Yeah, and I think that is what we've discussed before on the podcast, is not letting those negative experiences harden you and change you, and just learning from them. So that's why, all my protocols have developed and changed from this year and a couple months of dating, because I'm learning from all these experiences. And all of this is pretty much new to me anyways. So I'm taking them all in as learning experiences, even though sometimes I get bumps and bruises along the way.
Yeah, I remember I've told you too, like the goal for any interaction is when things don't work out, what's the lesson to be learned, right? And all these situations you've learned from each one, and you've added more things to layers of your dating situations to make sure that it kind of bulletproofs it. But there's always weird little things. I remember, super random, but I remember when I was doing the Frenchie thing and I was breeding Frenchies, I had a contract that was constantly changing. Why? Because there was constantly shit coming up that I wasn't ready for. I remember a quick little story. A guy had bought a Frenchie from someone and the ears were down, and he said, hey, in your contract it doesn't state like that the ears are going to go up. Can you 100% say they are? And he's like, yeah, I'll put it in the contract. Long story short, they never went up. He got his full money back and he still got the dog. So it's like you're constantly going to keep adding to this quote unquote contract you have, like this list, because someone might throw some curveball at you that you weren't ready for, and you go, okay, got to add this one to the list. So I definitely get what that comes, because to me, I was like, shit, I'm putting that on the fucking list. Don't promise the ears are going up, because I don't want to have to give no money back. But he won the whole fucking thing. He went to court and everything, but it was because that person guaranteed that. So I think it's important when you're just like with the dating stuff, like you're not going to be able to predict when someone throws you a curveball that you were ready for that. That's why all these other things that you've created has been through experiences. So that's the other thing that's refreshing in your scenarios. Like you've learned from all of them, and you haven't allowed it to harden you. And now you're like more prepared for the next one and the next one, where you can, if it doesn't work out, just on to the next.
It does make it easier to turn and burn, baby. Like,
and I think because you're not putting emotion to it, I mean, that's not your first mindset. I think that also makes it easier too, right? If a girl or a guy goes into it and they're really putting their heart and soul into it day by day by day, and weeks go on, when it does get pulled from underneath the rug because they started putting emotion to it, I think that's where it's harder to recover from. But your first mindset is like you have that one mentality, and if it does, the layers come back and you potentially meet someone, that's secondary to what you actually first intended to have happen.
I think that's why I like the method of which I'm dating, because it's more protective in that regard, where I am not putting as much emotional energy in. So if it doesn't work out, just like you said. I'm not as emotionally distraught. This story that you asked me to tell did emotionally hurt me a little bit because I did go into it emotional first. This guy I met at the post office, at the UPS store. So this is still a dating app story. And I'm telling all these stories because I hope that women resonate with this and learn from this and realize, like, I'm telling you all of these things out of experience, because the moment that something happens, the latter, like, yes, you can give someone a chance, you know, especially if they fuck up, or maybe you have wrongs and faults too. No one's perfect. So don't just always look at this as this checklist of if they don't meet everything, they're gone. But don't waste your time and energy on something you know isn't right for you, period. Like, there's a million dicks out there. Just like I said, if it is not right, move on, sister. There's so many more. Just keep on going. I was at the UPS store, and I pulled up and I was getting packages out of my car, and I'm like balancing them all. And this guy rolls up on a Harley, and he looked hot in like a leather jacket and white shirt and like just very quintessential like jeans, like guy on a Harley. And he starts asking me all these questions about my car. And I was like nervous and like a little flabbergasted. And I was answering and being all cutesy. And then we both go in, and I'm getting serviced by one of the clerks. And he is known by the people who work there because he has a P.O. box there. So the guy was like, oh, hey, whatever, and gets him his mail, and then he leaves. And I'm just like staring at this man through the window. And I'm just like, and I said to the guy that was helping me, because this is my local UPS, and I know the guy, he's like gay, and he is a funny dude. And I was like, I totally should have given him my number. And he was like, sweetheart, he's married. I fell in love with him too. And then that was the end of that.
Such a gay guy thing to say.
It was awesome, because I just couldn't stop staring. So fast forward 2 months later, on the Kink app, I didn't know it was him, but we matched on the Kink app. He had just a couple pictures of himself, and on that app you can ping somebody, which means you can like say you like them and also send a note. And he only had like 1 or 2 pictures, and his note was like, I'm over 200 pounds. I will send you more photos. Like, if you match with me, if you're interested, I don't miss leg day, or something cute. And I messaged back, I'm interested. And he sent me a bunch of pictures, like including him and his wife and more of himself. And they have been in an open marriage basically since they started their marriage. But now he was looking to actually have another partner, where they were going from just an open marriage to kind of polyamorous. And I was interested, and everything checked out. Like, when someone has nothing to hide, me asking my little questions, like, it is so easy to get through my little protocol. It takes like 2 seconds, and then we're back to just chatting. So we set up a date for, you know, the next day or so, and we go out on this date. And
now, when you went on this first date, you didn't know that was the UPS guy, though.
No.
Yeah,
first.
that's the big turn in all this.
Yes.
That you were going into this when you met him on that Kink app. You had no idea that interaction, and you put it on your close friends about the UPS thing. Weeks went on. You match with this guy. We're talking about it. You know, like, you know, obviously you tell me every fucking story. You know, you're going on a date, some whatever. So I remember you were excited about this one. Weren't you going to go get like acai
bowls? Yes.
And so now tell the story. Now they know that you didn't know this was him. Okay?
Right.
This is the pre of like, you met this guy. Now you're going on this date with this new guy that you didn't know was the UPS guy.
Right. And I had spoke with the wife. That's always big to me. If you're married, I want confirmation from your wife that you're allowed to have
And
this
this
interaction
is before
with
the
me.
date.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I was like, she can message me on Instagram, Facebook. I can see a screenshot of so he sent me a screenshot of their text exchange of her saying, it's okay for you to go on the date. Anything else we need to discuss further? Cool. So we go on the date. It was great. We didn't kiss, nothing like that. And then later, after the date, like immediately after the date, he starts like sexting me hardcore. Like, oh, I wish I would have been able to like pin you against your car and kiss you and put my hand on your pants. Like, all this shit. I'm like, this is hot. And that went on like all night. And we were chatting back and forth. And for some reason that night I couldn't sleep. And every time I woke up, I had a message from him. So we were chatting back and forth and back and forth. And then the next morning when I woke up, I had the epiphany that it was that guy. I was like, oh.
And what was the like the
I don't know.
switch?
It just finally made
Because I guess
sense.
I would have said to myself in that interaction on the date, wouldn't you have noticed that was him?
He said when I first pulled up, he's like, I've seen your car around town.
Do you think
town.
he was bullshitting and he knew?
No.
Oh, he probably forgot just like
It
you.
had been like 2 months.
Yeah,
and it
fair
wasn't
enough.
like a super big interaction. And so I texted him the next morning. I was like, do you have a P.O. box at this UPS store? And he's like, yes, I do. Why? And I go, oh my God, we've met before in the wild, in real life. And it just kind of like, for me, like enhanced this interaction, made it so much more exciting.
Like this was meant to be.
Yeah, like, and he was saying the same thing. And then I went back in my stories history and I downloaded the video of me on my close friends describing that interaction I had. And I sent it to him and we were all flirty and blah, blah, blah.
And then didn't you say he watched our podcast too?
Yeah.
Yeah, he watched one of our episodes, right? And had you didn't even have any idea that you were a co-host.
Yeah. Or he listened to it.
Yeah. Oh, he listened.
I think.
So like all these dominoes, I remember you telling me like, yeah, and he watched our pod or listened to it, and like he didn't know it was
he's bought one of your sex tapes.
Yeah, yeah, like there was just so many things where we're just like, what are the fucking odds?
Like this is meant to be. This is so perfect. So I'm all on a high. I'm all excited, and then all of a sudden he texts me and he was just like, "Hey, my wife is having a hard time with us talking." And we need to like reduce our level of communication by like 50% for her to be okay. Because I actually had asked, how is she doing with all of this? Like, did you talk to her about us, the fact that the date went well and we want to go on another date? Because while we were on this date, he's like, oh, me and you, we can do a getaway weekend in San Diego. And just talking about all the possibilities of what this relationship, me being his girlfriend and him having his wife, could look like. And I'm on board with all of it. And he said that to me, and I was just like, it was like the walls closed in, like, ooh. I was like, I am not a second-class citizen. Like, I am not only available to you when your wife says it is okay. And I phoned a friend who has been polyamorous for years, and I explained to him briefly the situation. He's like, run. They don't know what they're doing. Unless you are okay with being a guinea pig in this experimental situation, fucking run. And I was like, and it just like light bulb moment for me. I was like, you're right. And truly, when you are in an open marriage, that is just like where you're dating. But when you're in a polyamorous relationship and you're allowing your partner to have other relationships, just because you have a primary partner, they don't dictate
when you can't see them
how that relationship goes.
Yeah.
You either are in poly or you're not. That's open. Open is when, your primary person gets dictation on the boundaries of what you're able to do in that open marriage. But when you're saying I'm seeking this other relationship, like, yes, there's going to be things that are discussed as far as time and sharing and equality and all of that. But it's not like, oh, she's uncomfortable, so I can't talk to you. And it just made me feel really emotionally downtrodden and felt just like,
yeah, you're a secondary option.
Yeah, that's my value.
When it appeases her, then you can go.
Yeah. So we had this like super hot and heavy, basically like 72 hours. And then I sent him a series of I think I sent him like 6 minutes of voice messages just saying like, hey, I really think you guys need to go back to the drawing board, reevaluate what you're doing, because you're obviously not a place where you're ready to take on a relationship outside of your marriage. I am not willing to be an option, and I am worth way more than you only being available to me when she says it's okay. That's not what my intention was going into this. It seems like you guys are more in an open relationship than really truly polyamorous, and I'm not willing to be a guinea pig. Like 13 hours later, all he did was just heart the message. And because at some point, maybe like 8 hours after I sent it, I was like, I'm pretty disappointed that he didn't even reply, because I felt like.
I remember you had said that day he was like pampering her because she was feeling some type of way.
Yeah, they went out.
And then also remember, he was more in this, wanting this than she was. And I think that's also a big scenario too, right? There's a lot of relationships where they go into these poly relationships or open relationships, and it's because of one wanting it than the other. And you talk about the emotional connection, and usually a female is going to agree with her dude because she's emotionally invested in him, and obviously she wants to make him happy and the whole nine. So based off what you were telling me, he was insinuating that that's the direction in which they were going, but it sounded to me like she was never really wanting to step out of that. She was okay, because remember, their past instances was what, like he was just casually fucking girls, right?
Yeah.
You were the first one where it was going to potentially turn into a potential side relationship, and she wasn't ready for something like that because she probably wasn't ready to be in the poly relationship to begin with. He probably insinuated, let's go in this direction. And I think that's a big thing when it comes to, the poly relationships and the open relationships. I told you I had a friend where he was married and they had a poly relationship. They started dating a random girl, and I think they were both dating her at the same time. It was kind of like, what do you consider that one? Like, so I don't know all these different fucking terms and shit. So like, what's the difference between let's say you're in a poly relationship, and let's say we are, okay, and I go date a chick on my own. What's the difference between me dating her by myself and me dating her with you?
That would be like a throuple.
But it's still within the poly relationship, or no?
That would be a
Because they have like how do we know we couldn't have multiple girlfriends? Like that's one, and then we have another one. Like
it's like every relationship has its own different dynamics and rules. But if you're both mutually dating the same person, that is like a throuple dynamic versus just polyamorous, and sometimes poly is where everyone's dating each other, but it's basically the house rules, right? Like wearing your shoes in your house. That's your house rules.
yeah,
you know.
and theirs ended up being where he got a divorce with his wife, and then he ended up being with the girl he's with now, which is the one that was the initial outsider. So I feel like that same situation, she wasn't initially down for a poly relationship. It went that way because he started it. So I think that's a big dynamic when it comes to open and all these other things. Like, are you mutually ready for that together, not just one friend over or one party over the other, because that's where that dynamic comes into play. And then you're having to deal with, someone, like you said, like an experiment, which I feel like in the OnlyFans space, I feel like I'm an experiment, the same thing, right? It's not poly, but it's taking on someone that's never been in a relationship with someone whose workspace is doing sexual things. And so I always feel like that too. But it's hard too, because like, do you want to be with somebody that is has had a ton of these types of relationships and that's what you'd rather entertain, or do you like the newness of that aspect of it, you being like the first one? So there's that teeter line, right?
I don't ever want to be the first one. But if my boundaries weren't as firm and protective of myself and my energy, I could have entertained that for who knows how long. And it just would have been a perpetual series of me probably getting my feelings hurt because I'm this option for when the wife says it's okay, or only when the husband's available and she's not, or something like that. I had another instance happen like that.
And the kink app as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that again, but both those experiences you had were with people that were like kind of doing it in a loose manner. And same thing, he had to go ask. And then she was going to be around, or not, he wasn't going to be free, so he couldn't that day. And like you said, like there's parameters around this, and it makes sense when you say it that way. Like you can't treat someone else like they're just disposable whenever you want. Like, oh, my main chick doesn't want you to go with, or me to go with you, so we can't. They need to be completely separate things, and your chick or dude has to be okay with the idea that you're doing those. Now, what I would ask you is, how do you figure out that boundary line of, like, let's say where you feel like you aren't the second option if he does have someone else as a primary and he's always with her, and it's not that he doesn't want to be with you, and let's say she is okay with it, but they're just always together, then how do you figure that dynamic out?
I would say I haven't had enough experience
to know.
Yeah, like the guys that I've dated that are married are usually traveling, and they have
that time to be able to do those things.
Yeah.
Versus like like they live in Vegas, they're in a relationship, they're entertaining this, but like she lives at home, they're always together. Like, so when is that time to be able to just go, hey, I'm gonna go, and you would literally have to say that. I'm gonna go.
The first guy I ever hooked up with at all outside, like my first date off a dating app, he was local in LA, and he was in a open relationship, or he was in polyamorous relationship, and he was like dating with intention, but I told him like to take on more partners, but I told him that I wasn't interested in that, and he just basically told his girlfriend like, I'm going out on a date, and it was very cut and dry, very like, this is what I'm doing, and that's going to happen. Not, oh, are you working? Okay, if you're working, I'm going to go on a date, but if you're not. So I've had basically 3 in a row of this scenario where it was, they were a little bit too experimental in their phase of where they were at with trying to be polyamorous. And I ended up shutting it down because I'm not an option. I'm not someone's second choice. And even in the sphere of polyamorous and open relationships, I don't want to feel like I'm just the second class to whomever is your primary partner. And it's a little hard to stay like tough and firm with those boundaries. But at the end of the day, it just protects me. And that's,
yes, and your self-worth at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you don't want to feel like that option. And you are in a perfect scenario where it probably makes sense that you do want to have an established person that is in the poly realm, because that's what you're looking for. If you're going to go that direction, you want someone that knows the ropes, that there's no hidden agendas, like, hey, when it's my time, it's my time. There's no discrepancies here. So I can see on that latter half. And you also are new to it. It's not like you've had a ton of experience being the outcast, right? Even when you had the situation.
Outcast.
You are the you.
It
You're,
would be the I guess I don't know what that term is, but it's not outcast.
sometimes I say terms and you take them very fucking like to the bone.
I'm literal.
I
I'm
know,
literal.
but you know what I mean. Like
Yes.
you're the one coming into
The new person.
dynamic versus it the other way around. So with your intention and how specific it is, it makes sense that you are not doing it with somebody that you are the test dummy because you don't even have enough experience. So it's like, I'm not going to test with you guys. I don't even have enough experience myself.
Yeah.
I want to go in and go, okay, I get to build this relationship with this dude. This is what it is. His girlfriend's on the other side. Now, when it comes to how much she intertwines with that, you want it to be, it's a completely separate thing, right? She's not involved in any way, shape, or form.
I would say that I'm okay with having discussions about boundaries, about how this works, about sharing time, about what's appropriate, not appropriate. Even with the guys that I've hooked up with that are married, I always ask them, like, at the end of our interaction, like, is it okay if I keep texting you? Like, if I, make a nice video and I want to send it to you, or I want to send you a nude, like, what are the boundaries with that? Because I always want to be respectful
Yeah.
with their relationship and their boundaries. And I would be absolutely okay with those kind of conversations. But I don't know how that would look long term.
Yeah, you haven't got that far.
And I was trying with that guy and I was excited about it. I want to be someone's fun girlfriend, whatever.
Yeah.
But it obviously didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to. But dating is crazy. Dating is crazy. I enjoy it, but it definitely has its challenges. What I really wish, though, is that I could really just find like one or two quality humans to spend my time with, both emotionally and physically, and not have to do all of this and not keep having to figure it out. But I am also unwilling to just pretend like someone is okay enough to stop doing what I'm doing.
Well, like you said, you have that one guy that's consistent, but he's just not enough.
Yeah. We only see each other like every 3 weeks. And emotionally, there's just not a connection there. It's just very much a purely physical connection. I don't really like him outside of that. I like him outside of that, but there's nothing there for me outside of that
To
physical.
extend it farther.
Yeah. And frequency wise, I would like to be seeing someone like 2 to 3 times a week.
So your overall goal would be just if you were painting this picture, perfect picture of what that would look like, would you rather it just be one guy consistently that no emotions were attached and you enjoyed each other's time and that was it? Like when you're together, but when you go your separate ways, it's like, you treat it as if you're not together.
No, because I like flirting and building tension.
So how do you build that without somebody getting emotionally invested
I would
over
like
time?
a lightweight boyfriend. Like I just
a light. What the fuck does that even
not
mean?
light body weight, but
No,
lightweight
yeah.
boyfriend.
What does that even mean?
It means like someone who I can go on dates with, I can fuck, I can spend time with, but they're not like wanting to talk to me 24/7. Like I don't want good morning, good night, how are you doing? I don't want to talk to someone all throughout my day.
So how do you find that balance? And how does a guy maneuver in that type of balance too?
I would say someone who has enough going for themselves where they aren't needing to talk to me all of the time. Like well established within themselves, secure within themselves, not needing that emotional connection.
Yeah, and see that's hard too because I feel like if it was reversed and I was saying I wanted that, like very few females would ever be able to sustain that for longevity. So I think that also end over time. Like I feel like guys love harder sometimes, and so if it's the other way and they find all these qualities about you that are amazing over time, how are they not going to develop a feeling towards you and want to push it that direction? And I feel like it just happens where you're looking for this and then you end up getting the guys that would fall for you and you're like, no, stay away, like, and it always happens that way. We always get the opposite. So even if you're direct with your intentions, and I always laugh in our conversations because I'm like, you're like an anomaly to like how usually girls go about the dating scene. They're not that way. I feel like you also are attracting the guy that is initially going to fall in love with you at some point.
If he was a quality enough of a man,
yeah, we haven't got there.
I would be interested.
Yeah, we haven't got close to that.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's like I said, it's no different than my scenarios of dating with the OnlyFans space. Is like most of the girls that I've entertained, they've only gone 3 months. So I also don't put a lot of my emotions to things. Like I can spend, and maybe this is a guy thing, or maybe girls can do this too. I could spend 3 months with you and never give emotional investment to you. because to me, my time is just as important as my emotions. So I don't feel I need to give the emotion until they've exceeded a certain amount of time that shows me that they're there for the longevity. You know, some girls, the more they are with you, their feelings just keep getting stacked on. So if you have my time, that's just as valuable as my emotions. And I think through my own personal experiences of being the quote unquote experiment, I've realized if I go in too heavy sometimes and now I'm putting my emotion in, and then you pull the rug right underneath me for whatever reason, there's traumas you haven't overcome. I'm on a different healing platform. I'm on a different healing journey than where you are, and you're not progressing. And that inevitably why it ends. Or my workspace becomes too much for you, and you start to get in your head about it. And then that 3 months comes. I've invested so much, and now my emotions. Then, like we talked about, having to get over it. Like it still hurts. You know, like, oh fuck, you invested all this time. So I've had to do the same thing outside of the dating apps. I've had to do this very much the same thing. Okay, I just invested 3 months and I kind of went too hard with this girl, and then she didn't work out, and I'm like, oh man, that weak feeling of just feeling like, man, I just, you know, I gave this girl everything and then she just dipped on me, and that experiment feeling feels that way. So it's very much the same with the dating aspect. I've had to learn through my experiences, like my time is just as important. So if I just gave them my time for 3 months, I can turn that over a lot quicker than if I was giving my time and my emotions.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's something that I've had to learn, like, because my limit is like, okay, they last 3 months, and it's been pretty consistent about the whole 3 month thing. So I say to myself, okay, I can give someone 3 months of my time, and if it didn't work out, I wouldn't say to myself, oh, like what a waste or whatever, because I didn't give the emotional side. I think that's where it becomes a little bit more taxing, is when you start to put your emotions to things.
I feel like the first 3 months, you're just meeting someone's representative anyways.
Yeah, and then also too, your dynamic's a little different because you are meeting some, for the most part, I guess it's been mixed, but meeting people that are from here, and that's kind of more of your intention. So you can build with someone a lot quicker, and it can also end a lot quicker. Mine, on the other side, is usually girls that don't live here. They live somewhere else. So that 3 months can get stretched a lot farther because you're not seeing them as consistent. So my conversations are through text and, you know, voice notes, and if we do FaceTime or whatever, however that dynamic ends up being. So 3 months could be stretched out. Yours, they can only last a couple weeks because you have the potential of seeing them more consistently.
Couple hours.
She said, you literally went closer to the mic. Couple hours.
It's rare that I have a guy that lasts more than 24 hours.
I would much rather be in your scenario, and I think that's why it's easier to get over it, because it doesn't last long.
Yeah.
Where the longer something goes and you start, you know, having these
you do get attached a little bit in 3 months. You have to.
Yeah, I think that's another reason why I've always kind of avoided the app thing, is because it's like you're just having to have constant conversation over and over and over. And mine was so short-lived because, I mean, I never even met anyone because most people thought it was fake. You know, like, what? I'm sorry, my fucking pictures are so flawless. Like, my bad. You haven't seen someone so chiseled like me.
Too curated.
Like,
okay.
What do you mean? You know, are you insecure or what? So I think I've always gone the direction of like my Instagram too, also because of my workspace, because there's no hidden agendas there. I think there's also part of me where I'm like, if I was on an app and I was telling every single match that I did in the adult industry and was this, I'd probably be fucking fail. Unmatched. So I think that's another dynamic for me in my relationships, and what I've done is, like I've said in other podcasts too, is like, I don't bark up a tree I don't feel I belong. So I feel like these dating apps are not ready for someone like me. And so I'd rather be meeting people through my social media because it's there, you know, and if someone's coming and approaching me,
they're seeing it first.
They're seeing it. I don't have to have the conversation because, again, I could match with someone. We could match right now, have a conversation, and then somewhere down the line I say, here's my Instagram, or this is what I do for work. I mean, if I gave you my Instagram, you're literally going to make your own assumption.
Unless you put that in your bio. I've matched with guys who say I'm in the adult entertainment industry.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, see, and I guess for me, I'd rather, then I'm just limiting myself there. I'd rather just find someone through social media where they, a lot of the times, are showing an interest to me. Because if someone shows an interest to me and they see what I'm doing, that's the woman that I want, is because then I know I don't have to worry about this like unsaid thing or having to bring this awkward conversation up because they're not ready for it. But the experimental phase is where I've been, you know, the last 3 years that I've been doing this. It's like everything's an experiment, you know, with everyone, because most people aren't physically ready for that. And I also feel like I'm different than most creators because of how my work is in the grand scheme of a lot of other males. They're not doing it in excess. So I feel like I'm also an anomaly in that sense, where it's like it is hard to find relationships in an abundance. Like, you don't have to worry about potentially meeting somebody and having to tell them something that is going to probably ex-nay them out of your scenario. You're just weeding them out personally from your own because they don't have the intangibles to continue to make it go longer.
I feel like a lot more men use Instagram as a dating app tool than women in general.
Yeah, because, you say like Hinge is not really good for there. And see, I mean, I would look at it like, I think I went on a while ago and it was like, that was where I noticed like there was females up the ass wanting a relationship. Like that's specifically what they're looking for. So we talked about like, Tinder, like there's a lot of guys on there. So I think different apps.
I just don't like Hinge because of the location.
It doesn't give you specifics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it doesn't tell you where they're at.
It's weird. Like you type in your hometown, which your hometown, you could say California, but really you live here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's confusing.
Well, couldn't you just match and then say to them like, "Are you from here?"
I don't got time for all that.
Yeah, well, that's why I say when it comes to these apps, you're having a lot of pointless conversations that end up leading into nothing. We didn't even have a discussion about how many you've had that probably led to nothing.
Oh,
I mean,
hundreds.
you know what I'm saying? That's the part for me, energy-wise. I'm like, I don't got time for that. Like to sit there and have to, hey, what's up? Like, it's like you have to say that same fucking line over and over and over again.
But see, with your Instagram, with how many followers you have, that you're verified, like your status, like females are going to be more apt to respond to you on there because of the legitimacy of your profile versus how fake you may look on a dating app. So for you, it is a better,
dynamic
practice.
To go that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's why I've always, and then again, being in this space, I'd rather the girl be showing interest to me than me overly showing interest to them, because then that shows me that they're like they're seeing what I'm doing and they're still interested, versus it being the other way around and then having to chase someone and then inevitably like, oh, you do this work or you do this and I'm not going to pursue you anymore.
Yeah. Well, this was fun. Now all y'all know about all my stuff.
And it continues.
It continues.
So the end. We'll see how down the road how much longer it's going to take until we get stability.
I wouldn't say I'm unstable.
No, stability within this dynamic of the app, because there hasn't been stability within the app to find.
You mean consistency?
Yes. Well, stability, consistency, stability with the man.
Yeah.
Like where they're not just coming through the door and right back out the door. You didn't wear your shoes.
They ain't coming and going. Let's be real. The amount that I actually fuck is way less than the amount that.
Okay, so like that guy, the shoe guy, right? The one that did that whole thing. How did you feel based off of the dynamic of, okay, you hooked up with him and then
No, we didn't have sex.
No, I know. Okay, you kissed, whatever.
Hooking up to me is fucking.
See, I just think that's kissing. Okay, but anyways, that like, do you feel that that's a waste? Because of how that ended in that way?
How that one ended, yes, I feel like it was a waste. The poly guy, the married guy.
It was a learning experience.
I don't feel like that was a waste, yeah. Because I feel like that one that was literally.
Well, you guys didn't even do anything.
Yeah. But I learned a lot about myself and how I want to move forward in dating. This guy, there was nothing that I did wrong besides show up as myself. And he's, for some reason, had an issue with it. And that wasn't something that I could have learned from to like not do next time. Like, oh, hey, before I come over, are you a shoe person? Like, you know what I mean? It's such a weird. But
see, I would ask myself, did he say that because he wasn't interested, or was that genuinely the reason why? Like, see, and that's something where we would never know, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to dissect it and really give a fuck what the reasoning is. But I'm saying to myself, like, was that just the excuse?
Because since I've lived here, I've only went on 3 physical dates. And that was one of them. So, like, it takes a lot for me to get to the point where I'm like, yes, I will go on a date with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, I don't think that there was anything I could have done different. And I guess maybe we'll sprinkle in some of my dating.
And he was the one that he's the one that you didn't end up saying anything back to, right? You just blocked him.
Yeah, I blocked him
on his number and his Instagram.
Yeah,
and that was the end of it.
Yeah, I have a date this weekend. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, because I remember you've had so in that instance you felt that was enough to just block him.
Yeah,
I didn't need to say anything else back to him
because he left me on red for several hours, and so I was just like, I'm not playing these childish games. Goodbye.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. On that note, thank you for listening and watching. Do
you feel good getting this out? It is a good experience, a good talk to have even if we're, solely putting it on your experiences, because I think there's a lot more girls in your scenario, maybe not looking for what you're looking for directly,
but can
learn from being on the apps, because I do feel like there's probably more girls on there looking for stability and relationships and all these other things, but then there are circumstances that happen that they're not prepared for. So I think even though yours was very specific of what you're looking for, you still have evolved from step by step to like, okay, I need to set parameters, or this needs to be a rule of mine, or whatever. Because a lot of these girls, even regular relationships, these girls have no boundaries that they set for themselves, and then these guys just keep crossing them. And before you know it, you're so invested to this toxic relationship, you don't even know how to get out of it.
Before you know it, you're a stepmom in North Dakota, Bible thumping, gun toting, because the guy's got slings the dick.
Yeah.
I hope that the listener today, whether it's a male or female, gets out of this. When you're, on the apps, use your intention of, would I really want to progress with this person or not? Is this a boundary that this person is crossing of mine, whether it's physical, emotional, or interpersonal? And am I willing to bend that boundary for a reason or another? Usually the answer should always be no, because boundaries are there for a reason. And then, once I'm talking to this person, has something come up that shows me that they're not really who they say they are, or they're treating me some type of way that is making me not feel like the best version of myself. There's a million dicks out there. Well,
it also goes back to a lot of people don't want to be alone, right?
Yeah.
So they will, compromise. Because even for you, if you're looking for specifics, and I've said this too, because even in my brief instant, I've noticed like girls have this checklist. And I always say, like, you can't go into a relationship with a checklist like you're looking for someone like a person's an item, right? Because someone could have all the intangibles that you're looking for. You can look at their bio and go, yes, 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 yes. Okay, hits my checklist. You hang out with him and the vibe is not there.
No vibe.
Yes. So I feel like that's the most important, and I say, so eliminate this checklist, because you are also going to go into relationships where that checklist, you're going to look at some of them and go, it's okay. He doesn't need to have this. So I don't think that checklist matters so much. And I think people prioritize all these different things as if this person doesn't have this, they're not the one. There's like, you're never going to meet the perfect person. So I think that vibe and connection is the most important. And then, like you said, you're willing to sacrifice certain boundaries of somebody, potentially what that is, based off of your interactions with them.
I would say there's hard line boundaries and soft line boundaries. Like for me, hard line, 200 pounds.
Yeah.
Like,
that's 100%. Like
100%.
If a girl is like, I'm dating with intention, that's a hard boundary. If someone's saying like they're unsure, okay.
Or like I'm looking to get married.
Yes.
I wouldn't even step into that because I'm not trying to hurt your feelings.
Correct.
So, but soft boundaries of like, like, I don't know.
Does he smoke weed?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Or does he drink? Like, okay, how much does he drink?
Yeah.
Is he a casual gym goer?
Does he have a roommate? Okay, could I work with that? Like different things like that. But it's not so hard where it's like, if you don't meet these 10 pieces of criteria, we can't even talk.
Yeah.
But it's like, I have general boundaries of things that I'm looking for in another human. And those are the stepping stone to go from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, thank you for sharing all your wonderful experiences. I'm going to keep hearing more of them, but I'm glad we got to share with the listeners. So appreciate you guys being on here today, and we will see you next week. Give us a little outro before we go.
All right, we have Tell No Lies Podcast Instagram, Devin Physique Instagram, Ashley Contorno Instagram, Tell No Lies Pod on YouTube, and tellnoliespod.com.
See you guys next week.
Bye.
Peace.